The book of Revelation is one of the most mysterious and complex books of the Bible. Written by the Apostle John, it contains visions filled with powerful imagery, warnings, and prophecies about the end times. But how should we understand these visions? Are they descriptions of literal future events, or do they convey deeper spiritual truths through symbolic language? Revelation is filled with metaphors and apocalyptic imagery that have sparked discussion for centuries. Many of its symbols, beasts, plagues, heavenly armies, and a final battle, represent spiritual realities and struggles that continue to shape the world. Rather than predicting specific events, these visions provide insight into the ongoing conflict between good and evil, the corruption of worldly systems, and God's ultimate victory over darkness. In this video, we will explore 5 of the most striking prophecies from Revelation, analyzing their symbolic meanings and what they reveal about the spiritual condition of the world and humanity. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment. Which prophecy from Revelation do you think carries the most important symbolic message for today's world? Let's dive in. John, also known as John the Apostle, was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus and the author of several books in the New Testament, including the Gospel of John and 3 epistles. However, his most mysterious and prophetic work is the book of Revelation. According to Revelation 1:9-10, John received his visions while exiled on the island of Patmos, a remote place where the Roman authorities had banished him for preaching the gospel. It was there, on the Lord's Day, that he was in the Spirit and saw a series of divine revelations about the end times, the return of Christ, and the final battle between good and evil. John described what he saw in vivid, symbolic language, images that have fascinated and puzzled believers for centuries. These prophecies were not his own thoughts, but direct messages from God, revealed through visions, angelic messengers, and the voice of Christ himself. Let's take a closer look at some of the most terrifying prophecies from Revelation and explore what they could mean for the future. 1. A mountain burning with fire thrown into the sea. Revelation 8:8-9. One of the most striking visions in Revelation describes a great burning mountain being cast into the sea, bringing widespread destruction. Revelation 8:8-9 says, "The second angel sounded his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turned into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed." This passage vividly illustrates the downfall of a great power or kingdom. In biblical language, mountains often symbolize nations or ruling authorities. Jeremiah 51:25 refers to Babylon as a destroying mountain. The image of this mountain being hurled into the sea suggests the collapse of a once mighty empire cast down by divine judgment. The sea frequently represents the nations of the world, chaos or instability. Isaiah 17:12, Revelation 17:15. When the burning mountain crashes into the waters, it disrupts and contaminates them, symbolizing how the fall of corrupt powers can bring turmoil to the world. The sea turning into blood echoes the plagues of Egypt, Exodus 7:20-21, and signifies judgment, suffering, and the consequences of moral corruption. It is a stark warning that societies built on oppression, greed, and rebellion against God will eventually face destruction. The death of sea creatures and the destruction of ships may reflect economic and societal collapse, illustrating how the downfall of powerful institutions can send shockwaves throughout civilization. Ultimately, this vision serves as a reminder that no human power is everlasting. Even the strongest kingdoms will fall if they stand in opposition to God's truth. The burning mountain represents the inevitable downfall of systems that seem indestructible but are ultimately subject to divine justice. This passage is not just about judgment, It is also a call to recognize the fragility of human power and to place trust not in earthly systems, but in God, whose kingdom alone is unshakable. 2. The locusts with scorpion stings. Revelation 9:3-10. One of the most disturbing visions in Revelation describes a swarm of terrifying creatures rising from the abyss, bringing suffering and torment upon those who do not have the seal of God. Revelation 9:3-6 says, "And out of the smoke locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not allowed to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. During those days people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them." Unlike ordinary locusts that consume crops, these creatures target people, tormenting them but never killing them. John describes them as strange hybrid beings, with bodies like war horses, faces resembling humans, teeth like lions, and tails with scorpion-like stingers. Their wings roar like the thunder of charging chariots, striking fear into all who hear them. Throughout the Bible, locusts are often associated with divine judgment, a force that brings destruction upon those who rebel against God. In the book of Joel, an invading army of locusts devastates the land, a disaster seen as both a literal event and a warning of a deeper spiritual crisis. Similarly, in Exodus, locusts are sent as one of the plagues upon Egypt, signaling divine wrath. But here, in Revelation, their role is different. They are not sent to destroy fields or cities, but to afflict the hearts and minds of people themselves. Emerging from the abyss, a place of chaos and darkness, these creatures represent a force that brings deep suffering, not through physical destruction, but through anguish, despair, and fear. Their attack lasts for 5 months, a period of relentless torment where those afflicted desperately seek relief, even death, but cannot find escape. It is a vision of a world consumed by turmoil, where people long for peace but are unable to grasp it, trapped in a state of spiritual unrest. This passage serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of turning away from God's truth. It portrays a time when people, having rejected divine wisdom, find themselves overtaken by forces beyond their control, forces that do not bring immediate destruction, but something even worse, an enduring, inescapable suffering that has no relief. 3. The image of the beast that comes to life. Revelation 13:14-15. One of the most unsettling visions in Revelation describes an image of the beast that appears to come to life, deceiving the world and demanding absolute allegiance. This image has the power to speak and even to order the death of those who refuse to worship it. Revelation 13:14-15. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. This passage does not simply describe a statue or idol, but something that holds real power, influencing and controlling those who follow it. The image is not just an object of worship, but a tool of deception, designed to ensnare people into submission. Throughout the Bible, idolatry is often used as a symbol of misplaced devotion and false authority. In the Old Testament, kings and rulers set up images to reinforce their power, demanding worship as a sign of loyalty. The golden statue of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 3 is a clear example, a physical representation of political power that required absolute obedience. Those who refused to bow faced persecution. The image of the beast in Revelation follows the same pattern, but extends beyond physical idolatry. It represents a system that demands ultimate allegiance, one that leaves no room for dissent. This could be a corrupt ideology, a controlling political power, or a deceptive religious movement, something that presents itself as righteous but is ultimately rooted in falsehood and manipulation. The fact that the image speaks implies that it does more than just exist. It spreads deception, enforces control, and manipulates people into submission. This is a vision of a world where those who do not conform face severe consequences. The execution of dissenters further reinforces the idea of an oppressive system that eliminates opposition, ensuring that all submit to its rule. At its core, this prophecy serves as a warning against blindly following systems of power that present themselves as absolute truth. It speaks to the danger of putting loyalty to worldly institutions above faithfulness to God, whether in politics, culture, or ideology. The message is clear. Any force that demands worship, whether literal or ideological, stands in opposition to the divine truth. This passage serves as a timeless reminder of how deception and control can take hold in any era. The image of the beast is not just an object, but a representation of any system that seeks to replace God with its own authority, convincing people to submit through fear and manipulation. 4. The mark of the beast. Revelation 13:16-17. One of the most striking prophecies in Revelation describes a mark that determines who can buy or sell, forcing people into submission under the beast's rule. Revelation 13:16-17. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Rather than a literal marking, many see this as a sign of complete allegiance to a corrupt system, one that demands obedience and punishes those who resist. In ancient times, a mark often symbolized ownership, loyalty, or servitude. Those who receive this mark are not simply participating in an economic system. They are submitting their thoughts, forehead, and actions, hand, to an authority that opposes God. The contrast is clear. While God's people are sealed by him, Revelation 7:3, those who bear the mark belong to the beast. It is a choice between faithfulness to God and surrender to a system that demands ultimate control. This passage warns against any system, political, ideological, or religious, that pressures people to compromise their faith for the sake of security or acceptance. Throughout history, believers have faced this test, whether through persecution, coercion, or societal pressure. The mark of the beast is not just about commerce, it represents a deeper question of loyalty. Will people stand firm in their faith, or will they submit to something that seeks to take the place of God? This prophecy leads directly to one of the most dramatic moments in Revelation, the final battle known as Armageddon. Let's take a look. The Battle of Armageddon, Revelation 16:16. One of the most dramatic prophecies in Revelation describes the final confrontation between the forces of good and evil, culminating in what is known as the Battle of Armageddon. Revelation 16:16. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. This passage describes a moment when the world unites for a final battle, but rather than a purely political or military event, it represents a decisive spiritual conflict, one in which Christ ultimately triumphs over the forces of darkness. Throughout Scripture, battles are often used as symbols of the struggle between God's truth and the forces that oppose it. While some interpret Armageddon as a literal war, many see it as the culmination of spiritual warfare, where the corruption, rebellion, and deception that have plagued the world reach their peak. The gathering of kings for battle represents the world's final rejection of God, as human pride and defiance reach their ultimate limit. Just as in the Tower of Babel or in the rebellion of nations throughout history, humanity once again seeks to build a kingdom apart from God, but it cannot stand against divine justice. This prophecy serves as a warning about the inevitable downfall of any system that opposes God's rule. It is not just about an external battle, but about the internal struggle that takes place within every person. The choice between following God's truth or being swept up by deception. Armageddon is a reminder that the battle between good and evil is ongoing. It challenges believers to remain firm in their faith, knowing that no matter how powerful the forces of darkness may seem, God's victory is certain. This prophecy is not meant to invoke fear, but to offer hope, the assurance that evil does not have the final word. In the end, truth prevails, and God's kingdom is established in full. The book of Revelation has been studied and debated for centuries, and its imagery continues to inspire deep reflection. Jesus warned in Matthew 24:42, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." This is not a message of fear, but a call to spiritual awareness and faithfulness. Revelation's prophecies serve as a reminder that history moves according to God's plan, and no matter how dark things may seem, His justice and kingdom will prevail. Rather than looking for signs in world events, the real question is, are we ready? Will we remain faithful in times of deception and trial, or will we be swept away by the pressures of the world? What do you think? Which message from Revelation speaks to you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more insights on biblical prophecy. Stay strong in faith and see you in the next video.